Welcome back to the Mac Power Users. I'm David Sparks, and joined as always by my friend and yours, Mr. Stephen Hackett. How are you doing today, Stephen?
I'm good, David. Happy New Year.
Yeah, thank you. Almost Happy
Almost.
New Year. Yeah.
It's close.
We thought it'd be fun to end up the year talking about what worked in 2025. You and I are always testing out a lot of different technology. We talk about stuff here on the podcast. And it's time for the scorecards to come out. And we're going to talk about the stuff that we think worked this year. So I think we can just jump into it. But I guess before we got a little housekeeping.
Yeah, just a little bit. This is the final call for discounted membership for Mac Power Users. Relay, we run a holiday sale every year, and that is ending on December 31st, so just a couple of days after this episode airs. It's the first link in the show notes, but it's giverelay.com. You'll get 20% off an annual membership. A membership comes with a lot of great perks. You get access to more Power Users, which is a longer ad-free version of the show that we do each and every week. So no ads. And for instance, on this episode, we're going to be talking about tech we would like to work in 2026. So maybe some things that didn't quite do it this year, or maybe in the past have been frustrating that we hope to improve in 26. So we do an extra chapter every week for members, and you get a bunch of goodies from Relay as well. So go check it out. That sale ends at the end of the year.
Yeah. And also, gang, don't forget we now have a video version of the podcast. If you look in the show notes, there's a YouTube channel you can subscribe to, and we are putting up now. We've done it for about a month now, and I'm hearing from folks that are enjoying being able to watch the show. You can do that. Just follow there. This week, if you watch, you'll see that my family has turned my studio into a gift wrapping a depot. So it's not my best look of my studio yet, but it's there, and you can see it in the show notes.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Okay, so in preparation for this episode, I did some thinking, and I've done this for a few years now, but I wrote a winners and losers of Apple's 2025. So I'll have that link in the show notes. It's sort of tangential to this episode. And so we're just talking about things that worked this year, but I've got some winners and losers on that blog post. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. It's definitely related to this.
Yeah, excellent post. And
thank you.
A must read. But we decided we're gonna go on the positive side for this episode. We're gonna just focus on the stuff that we think is going well right now in technology. And the obvious first choice, to me at least, is Apple Silicon.
Yeah.
We're now, was it 5 years into this transition to this Apple Silicon on the Mac, but even longer on the iPhone and iPad. And I don't think that Apple's ever had a better processing story than they do now.
Yeah, it has just been an incredible 5-year run for Apple Silicon, and we primarily think about it as a Mac thing, but of course it's from the Apple Watch on up, right? Apple's doing the whole thing, and it's really in a place now where I think this is far from a fluke, right? I mean, they continue, roughly every year to have a new generation of their chips. Right now, we're sort of in the transition from M4 to M5, and I think they're absolutely killing it. I mean, there's really, other than the Mac Pro, there's really not a Mac that is like, hey, don't go get that. Like they're all good, and it's just about the trade-offs that you desire, right? Laptop, maybe thickness or screen size or weight, a desktop, right? Kind of capability, right? Am I fine with a Mac Mini? Do I need just a souped up Mac Studio? But there's really something for everybody, and they're all good. And I am confident when I recommend somebody buying a MacBook Air that they're going to love it, right? That hasn't always been true. And I'm so pleased with how it's gone.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Mac Pro is the asterisk here, but it's such an extreme case.
Yeah.
There are so few people who need it, and they have succeeded so well at the other end, in the middle and the low end. The Mac Mini and the MacBook Air, to me, are just probably the best computers Apple's ever made when you look at the bang for the buck. And they're really killing it. But that also extends, like I said, the iPads just get better and better in terms of the hardware, as do the phones. It's opening some possibilities in the future for them to get even more experimental with iPhone platform. And I was just thinking, just in general, like if you're listening to this and you're still on an Intel computer, start looking. I think it's time. I get it when you want to run your hardware as long as you can. You don't want to spend the money, but boy, are you in for a nice surprise when you do that update. And 5 years into this thing, it's going to be great. We for Christmas we bought my mother-in-law a new MacBook Air. There's this rumor of the really cheap one coming, but the one she has a 12-year-old MacBook Air that is just in really rough shape right now. And so we went ahead and got her an M4 MacBook Air, got like a Black Friday deal on it. And she loves it so much, because it's just so fast, compared to what she had before. She can't get over how fast it boots up and how stable it is. And it just reminded me that Apple has really done something remarkable here by taking control of the silicon.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's fantastic, and I think as we continue to move forward with Intel, Apple Silicon, all that stuff, right? Like we are at a bit of a turning point because Tahoe is the end of the line for Intel Macs in terms of major OSs, and so if you are on that precipice, right? Like you're running an Intel Mac, you're thinking about it, like Tahoe's it, and Tahoe will get security updates for a couple of years, but it's the time, and it's the time for your family members, and it's the time to, spread the word.
Yeah, I have a little side note here. I'm getting a new computer for an 83-year-old lady who is susceptible to some of the scamming stuff that's aimed at senior citizens.
Yeah.
She has one time she clicked a phone number off a pop-up and talked to the nice people at Microsoft that helped her update her computer. And I had to explain to her she doesn't have any Microsoft software on her computer. And so I talked to you, a former genius, and did some research and talked to some other friends, even some friends at the fruit company. And the problem is she is 83, but she's an intelligent lady. She's going to be offended if I put like parental controls on her computer.
Sure. Yeah.
So the way I did it is I set up an admin account for myself and a user account for her. So that was the first thing I did that I think kind of added a firewall.
Yeah.
And I just told her that the software changed now. And so if you have to add new software, you have to come see me because I have to do something special to make it work. I blamed Apple. Didn't tell her exactly what I was doing.
That's okay.
And she's cool with that now. So she knows if she needs to add new software, she's got to come down and I'll take care of it for her. And then I spent a bunch of time in the Safari preferences, but she prefers to use Chrome.
Okay.
This 83-year-old lady knows more about Bitcoin than I do. So just so you're, and but that makes her vulnerable in my opinion,
Sure. Yeah.
And the Chrome controls are not as good. But I did find a couple plugins, and I do think I got Chrome relatively locked down. And it's just it's an interesting challenge, when you're setting up a computer for someone that's not completely safe on the internet, doesn't really know what's going on, but you don't want to be like completely a jerk about it.
Yeah. I think having somebody run as a standard user is just a really good first step. I mean, really, I got friends who work in InfoSec, IT security stuff, and they run a standard user, right? They're not logged in as admin all the time. I played with that for a while, and I just found that it got in my way. But I trust myself. Yeah. But if you're setting up a machine for somebody else, or you're running into these issues, that's a great first step, because standard users, they can install apps as long as those apps don't require an administrator password. So if there's a background process or something, then they can't do that. They can change their own settings, but they can't add other users. They can't change settings for other users. And that, I think, in conjunction, I think the other thing I would say, I think we talked about this, was in system settings, you have the option on how apps, like what apps can be installed
Yeah.
effectively.
Yeah.
And, someone like me, right? Like I just have it wide open and I know that if it's not notarized, I have to right click and like go through the hoops. But having it where maybe they just can install from the App Store, even, right? You have those options there. And that's, I think, another good way to go. Because I agree, like she doesn't need parental controls, right? Like my parents don't need parental controls. It's not, that's a different thing. But there are tools at your disposal to make things a bit safer.
Yeah, I also threw that flag so she can only install directly from the App Store. But I mean, for her, the internet and the web browser is the app, really. And she doesn't run apps except for email. And even that she runs through the web. So yeah, it's just really making sure the browser is as locked down as I can make it. And if they do convince her to do something, they won't be able to install software. And I feel like that's better than we've had her protected in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll have some links in the show notes to some Apple documentation about that stuff, about notarization and gatekeeper and, but even in just the browser, right? Like there was a rash of this several years ago. I think we talked about it, especially in Safari. I think it was going on in Chrome too. It wasn't malware. It was like adware. Like, like suddenly my search engine changed to like this weird page I've never seen before.
Yeah.
And like there's weird things going on in my browser because you installed, a plugin. Some of that was like JavaScript stuff. And so there are still things, right? The web is still a scary place. And there's really nothing you can do, right? Like we've all seen it. Like you see an ad and it kind of looks like a system thing, right? And it's like, oh, you've been, locked out of your computer. Call this number, right? Like you said, you talk to the friendly people who definitely were not at Microsoft.
Yeah.
And that is an education thing. The tech can only go so far, but the education thing is a big thing as well.
Yeah. Well, it's a thing. But Apple Silicon, good on you. Congratulations to Apple. I know this took a lot of effort to get there. I mean, there is obviously some vulnerability here. If you read the Apple in China book that came out this year, Apple is extremely reliant on TSMC, which does basically all the work on one island that has earthquakes in China right next door. That's not too happy about it. So there is some vulnerability there. I hope that they continue to expand that supply chain. If you look at the news, it looks like they're looking, at least hoping, to start manufacturing M-series chips outside of Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I mean, the focus on design, making their own silicon, and the choices they made in doing it are so just excellent. And and it has enabled this kind of revolution. I think the M5, which we're just starting to see, is going to make local AI something that's really powerful on the Mac. I don't know, have you seen already where people are starting to daisy chain, M5 computers together?
Yeah.
It's going to get even crazier when that Ultra M5 Mac Studio shows up.
Yeah, Apple has rolled out technology that it basically over Thunderbolt. There are a couple YouTube videos about this. I'll put one that I watched in the show notes. That so you can hook up a bunch of Macs with Thunderbolt, and the software runs on them, and it basically allows like shared resources. So you could have a little cluster of this video is Mac Studios, and you can run a model, and it splits the task and shares the memory across all of them. And that's really compelling if you want to run local AI stuff. Now, it's out of reach for the general person, but the ceiling for what's required for these things is only going to come down. And so, having a rack of 4 Mac Studios is not feasible for anyone. But one day, you could do it on your laptop. Like, it's definitely coming.
At the same time, I mean, Federico's doing great stuff on a single Mac Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
In the video, if you're looking the same one I looked at, they all had 512 gigabytes of RAM. So he's got 2 terabytes of RAM. And what they've done with the technology, I forget the name of it offhand. I think it starts with an L. But what they're doing is eliminating the delay when these computers talk to each other. So people are really building powerful local AI stuff.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, we are going to be doing a show next year on running local AI. And if you are doing something interesting with it or have questions about it, please let us know, because some of our shows start planning months in advance, and this is one of them. And I'd love to hear. I know we've got some power users out there that are ahead of us on this stuff. I'd love to hear from you if that's you.
Yeah. So that's the Mac, but Apple Silicon, of course, is also in the iPad and the iPhone. The iPad, I think, in particular, it finally feels like this year the software
caught
up with it.
Yeah.
And that's been really good to see. I mean, the iPad is very capable of running multiple apps, multiple windows, right? Clearly it is, because the Mac does it. And I'm glad to see that the giant engine under the hood of the iPad is finally getting exercised.
Yeah, but and interestingly there, the needle they had to thread was they wanted people that listen to Mac power users to be able to get more out of their iPad. And now we can. But they also wanted the people for whom the iPad was perfectly fine as a very simple, big iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted them to still be okay. And I think they thread the needle. I mean, that wasn't easy, but I think overall they've done a pretty good job. And as we've said in recent shows, they're continuing to refine it with point updates, which isn't necessarily like Apple. Sometimes they'll do this and just leave it for a year or two. And it seems like they're actively working on getting that right.
Yeah. It's really good to see the iPad sort of finally come into its own. And, even things down like to the Apple Watch, like the HomePod Mini, right? Like all of this technology is built on Apple Silicon. And I think from a developer perspective in particular, Apple's done a good job in making it easier for developers to target multiple Apple platforms. And, for a long time, it was like, well, okay, you got ARM, Apple Silicon stuff everywhere but the Mac. The Mac is x86. It's a different thing. And we've had technologies like Mac Catalyst, right, which could help bridge those things. But now it is much simpler. Now, part of that is an OS strategy. Apple has done a lot to kind of bring the platforms together in terms of APIs and foundational technologies, but Apple Silicon is part of that too. And I do think we're moving to a world where, I don't know if developers, will go all in on this, but I think Apple, I think, is leading the way and like, hey, you can write one app and it runs across our ecosystem. And that is something, if they can pull it off, it'll be really the first time it's ever happened. Like Microsoft tried it and it didn't really work. Of course, their phone was sort of doomed from the start, but it's a strength that Apple has, that they have these ecosystems, these different platforms, and that it's the same technology expressed in different ways. And bringing the Mac in line with the iPhone and iPad and all of that makes it very exciting to me.
Yeah, and it's not even just like the app can be, sent out to all platforms. It also, I think, applies to the feature level. And the poster child for me on this is OmniFocus, because they made the Swift UI app and now they add new features and it shows up on the iPhone, the iPad, the Vision Pro, the Mac.
Yeah.
I think they're benefiting from that ecosystem, and not all developers are there. There's a kind of a disturbing trend right now where people are going away from native apps and they're getting a lot more Electron and web-based stuff. But the people who are buying in for the users are getting some real nice benefits of cross-platform stuff, and that kind of grows out of Apple Silicon. And I think if we're going to talk about Apple Silicon, we should also mention this is the year that Apple's modems really went mainstream. They'd worked on that project for years, the C-Series chips, where Apple's putting its own cellular modem on devices. It hasn't made it into the mainstream iPhones yet, but it was on the iPhone Air, Steven's favorite phone, right? That's still your favorite
so
phone?
Good.
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like this like thin, beautiful thing.
Yeah. I mean, and it went to the E-Series phone, and I fully expect it to go mainstream next year. Maybe we'll even get it in a Mac, but that's just one more example of Apple, killing it, because, making your own modem, if you do that wrong, you got a big problem because phones need to connect to cellular networks.
Absolutely. And, Apple wants to control its technology and they don't want to pay Qualcomm their fees, right? And really it's been totally fine on the iPhone Air. Like if I didn't like if it, one, most users never think about the modem, don't know who makes it, don't care. But even as someone who knows, which means I'm kind of always looking to see how it behaves, like it's totally fine. Like they clearly took the time they needed, right? Because the Intel business they bought was not in good shape. It took them 5 years, 6 years to do this, but clearly that time has paid off. And I do think we will see in the coming years, the C1, the C1X, the C2, whatever, continue to spread. And man, I would love it in a Mac. Tethering is fine, like it's fine. But having it built in, like having had iPads with with LTE or 5G, it's really great when it's built in. And if the carriers treat it like an iPad or an Apple Watch, where it's like $20 a month or something, and you just dip into your pool of data, I think it'd be awesome. And I really hope that we see it as an option on the Macs in the coming years. I suspect that we will, now that Apple has the modem in house, but we'll see.
You think it shows up first in a MacBook Pro or the MacBook Air?
I think probably the Pro.
Yeah.
You got more room in there. And, if they do it like the iPad, right, it will just be like an add-on, right? Like the iPad, I think, is like $129 to add cellular. I think they would do something similar on the Macs. And I think the MacBook Pro would probably go first, but, maybe ultimately in both lines.
Yeah, I'd like to see it all up and down the line, but I agree with you. It will definitely show up on the more expensive one first. This episode of the Mac Power Users is brought to you by 1Password, the industry-leading password manager for work, family, and life. Many years ago, I was wandering around the floor of Macworld Expo, back when that was a thing, and I bumped into a small developer with a great idea. What if he took care of the internet security problem for you? And that developer was the guy behind 1Password. In the years since, 1Password has grown to a big company that has lots of customers, corporate, individual, otherwise, but it still is dedicated to that cause, protecting us on the internet. With 1Password, you can keep your digital life secure while staying productive with the industry's most usable password manager. When you go to sign up for a new website, 1Password creates a password for you and remembers it for you. So you only need to remember that 1Password. But it does so much more than that. It takes all the friction out of internet security. If you want to share a password with your loved ones and family members, you can do that. You know how you read articles about how websites get hacked and people's passwords get compromised? Well, 1Password monitors websites for you and lets you know when the sites you deal with have had security flaws, so you can go in and change your password or cancel your account. One of my favorite features is the secure vault that is 1Password, because it's a separate vault on your device. So when you put notes and information in 1Password, people are not going to get access to that, even if they get your phone unlocked. And of course, it works seamlessly on your Mac, iPhone, iPad. It does Windows and Android if you're into that. 1Password truly is a solution for all of your internet security needs, whether you're just looking for yourself, your family, or your multinational corporation. They've got a product for you. And the good news is you get 20% off if you go to 1password.com/MPU. So head over to 1password.com/MPU. Start securing yourself, your family, and your business today. And thank you, 1Password, for all of your support of the Mac Power Users.
Okay, one that I wanted to touch on is Apple's default apps. In the past year, we did an episode about it. You had a field guide out about the Apple Productivity Suite, calendar, reminders, notes, and Freeform. And I kind of just wanted to check in on that again, because now we've lived with Tahoe for a while, and the updates to these apps in iOS 26. Where are you with these? What of these are you using on a regular basis? Because I'm basically in all of them.
Yeah, it's just like this is the year that you switched full time to reminders, right?
Yeah.
So I coming out of that field guide production, because I used them all for basically a year to make the field guide, and a lot of them stuck. I feel like Apple Notes, I only fell in love with more. I use Apple Notes every day. I still use Fantastical because there's a couple features in there that I can't get, like the scheduling stuff is really handy. But I also use Calendar. Like I like having Fantastical as a full screen app. So like I can swipe on my big screen and have like a wall calendar on my screen. But I use the Apple Calendar app too. It's very handy and it's come a long way. Another one that I find I use a lot now is Freeform because I'm a visual thinker and Freeform is really good. My buddy Nick Milo, he's been on the show before. He
Yeah.
is a big fan of Miro and he does like amazing stuff with his team using Miro. But I wanted to use Freeform because it's Apple, it's private. The people I work with are already on the Apple platforms. I don't have to pay for it. And I found that I'm able to do pretty good work with Freeform. And so I've got like shared team boards, like the field guides I'm working on. I've got boards for them. And again, I like to make it like a full screen app I can swipe into and swipe out of on my Mac. I can also access them on my iPad. So I use that all the time. Having finished up the field guide on Apple Productivity Suite, I'm not using reminders as much. I really feel that OmniFocus, and we talked about this last week or a couple weeks ago. We talked about the tech stacks for the year, but it's just OmniFocus has got so many features that I've come to rely on. But I am running my personal data out of reminders just because there's so many people in the labs and that just use reminders. I want to be kind of in it often so I can come up with ideas for new automations to share and techniques to get more out of it. But I don't use it for my work. I use it for the personal stuff. And that's just because of who I am and what I do. But if I didn't have so much on my plate, I think I could probably get by with reminders as well.
Yeah.
One thing I was a little disappointed with this year is as much as they've improved upon these apps, they really didn't improve upon them that much in 2025. I was used to getting a pretty big jump every year for like the last 5 years. And this year they took a few small steps. They didn't take a big jump. And I really hope next year that they get back on board with really kind of improving it. If theoretically Siri gets better, I could see a lot of things they could do to improve these apps in the next year.
Yeah, I think in particular those apps will be sort of, hopefully, if the new Siri is good and what they promised a couple years ago, like those apps really stand to benefit, right? The thing of like, hey, when is my mom's flight? That was the demo they sort of infamously did. That maybe wasn't actually a demo. And so yeah, like crawl mail, crawl notes, like know about these things. I think a lot of people, I think in particular, I think my guess is in the world, Notes is the most popular of these. It's so good. I mean, I've been in Apple Notes basically since it got good in like iOS was it 9 and like El Cap like that year. And it's really become like central to me personally. I also have some Relay stuff in there, which I may change in the coming year and just make Notes personal. But I don't split out tasks. I think we talked about this recently, but
Yeah.
in reminders, I have personal stuff, work stuff, church stuff. Like they're all different lists, right? But it's all together. Because for me, I just want one place to see all that stuff. But I totally get breaking it out. And I think really like, I think using reminders for your personal stuff, maybe you share that with a spouse or a roommate or something. And then you have, your work stuff and something like OmniFocus, or if you're in like the PC world, you've got it in Outlook or Microsoft Tasks or whatever. I think that's probably a really common split. And I think one that makes a lot of sense for basically almost anybody at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I didn't have the labs and the podcast, I would probably just do it all in OmniFocus since I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
But I actually do like keeping my hands in it and seeing what's coming. And, just on that point, imagine Siri gets good and it has working knowledge of all of your calendar events, your task management, your notes, it has all of that on board, completely private and under kind of the Apple umbrella. Then suddenly reminders may become my everything task
Yeah.
manager. I could see in the next year, me switching to it entirely. That's another reason I'm keeping my hands in it. It just depends on how well Apple delivers the goods with Siri. And, we're talking about what was good this year, and Siri definitely does not fit in that category. But maybe next year,
Mm-hmm.
this conversation takes a turn, and
Yeah, for
I
real.
sure hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, I suspect it. I suspect it will, and I think that, I mean, Apple's vision for this, right, is that it happens on your phone. It's local, it's private, it's secure. And one thing that I like about Notes in particular is that the stuff is all stored offline by default. That was a complaint that I've had about other Notes apps, is that
Yeah.
if you're on an airplane and you just want to like bop open something and like it's not there, that's a problem for me. Like I want it locally on my phone, and that's how all of Apple's apps work. And that means that stuff is there for Siri to process in the background and all those things. And so I do think that will come to third-party apps, right? They've talked a lot about that with App Intents, and you can donate content and that's user activity and all of these things. But the first-party apps are always going to be, hopefully, the shining examples of that.
Well, the thing I'm struggling with right now, and because I haven't nailed down everything I'm going to be using in 2026, because Apple Notes is so good. I have data in NotePlan and Obsidian, but there's a part of me that's like, so why are you doing that? I understand that there's more power in those applications, but Notes is still really good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch of people in MacSparky Labs who were Evernote devotees who've gone all in with Notes.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I like about it, and I suspect that's true for lab members, is that they're multimodal, right? So I can have text and an outline and a table and a screenshots. And I have so many notes that have just PDFs in them, and then my notes about those PDFs. Like, that all works really well together. That was back in the day. Evernote kind of stood alone in that regard, right? That you could have this mixed media environment, and Apple Notes sort of picked up that baton and kept going. And that's definitely one reason I use Notes over something that may be more text-based.
And if we're giving praise to Apple apps, I think we have to shout out to Pittsburgh, to the iWork. At least last I heard, they were all in Pittsburgh. The iWork team. It's a small band of people that are making some great apps that do nothing but just regularly send out excellent updates to their apps. They don't wait till June every year. They give them to us as soon as they've got them. And I met some of those guys years ago at WWDC, and super nice folks and making killer apps. And we hear all the time from listeners that have given up on the Microsoft Office suite and they're running everything out of iWork. And that's one that just keeps delivering the goods.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Pages, Numbers, and Keynote they're just nice to use. Like when I come down to it, it's like, where would I rather spend my time? In these apps or Word, Excel, and PowerPoint? And look, don't get me wrong, there are some things that the Office suite can do that iWork can't, or that Office does better. Like Excel is just a more robust program than Numbers if you really need complicated things. But most people don't, including me. And these things work and look like you would expect them to as a Mac or iPad or iOS user. And as a bonus, it's really easy to have these documents just saved in iCloud and have them available to you across all of your devices, right? So having, a keynote presentation that you work on your Mac, and then, maybe you touch it up on your iPad, and that stuff is great. And I've kind of made fun in the past of Apple's like ideal word, like you're just like bouncing between all their devices. But if you are that person, iWork delivers in a way that really hardly anything else can. And even though the vast majority of my working life is in Google Docs and Sheets, for a lot of personal stuff, I turn to iWork, right? Like, things that I just need for me, or like just to share with Mary or something, right? I do it in Numbers or Pages. Anytime I build a presentation, if I'm teaching or doing something, it's Keynote, right? It's never PowerPoint. It's certainly not Google Slides. And I think Apple really does continue to deliver, and they're free now. I mean, they've been free for a long time, but like that's also a big thing, that they just come on your devices, and that is not nothing. I remember when they made that switch, and it was honestly like it was kind of mind blowing. It's like, oh gosh, like we're just gonna get these with a new purchase? Like that's wild. I mean, I remember, I'm sure you do too. Keynote was first, and like you bought Keynote in a box on a CD,
Yep.
right? And then Pages was added, and then Numbers was actually last, I think, in 2008. I remember that because Phil Schiller said it was a spreadsheet that was fun to use. It's like, okay, Phil, I'm not sure any spreadsheet is fun to use, but if there is going to be one, I guess it is Numbers. Now, I remember when you were doing legal stuff that you really enjoyed iWork. Where does it fit in now? Now as like full-time MacSparky years later.
It still gets used. Like I give presentations because we do in the labs, we do monthly meetups, and a lot of those presentations are made in Keynote. I still think Keynote's the best looking presentation software. And then I use Pages to a much lesser extent because I don't need to do as much word processing, but
right.
I do invoices on them, and there's different things I do with Pages. I had to write a letter to my homeowner association about my addition, and you just use it for all my word processing and Numbers as well. I think I use Numbers the most because I track a lot of finance stuff with it because it's just so easy to use. It's private. Earlier this year, I had an idea because I'd been using Numbers as a spreadsheet for sponsorship for the newsletter and the blog for like 5 or 6 years. I've got all this data in there. And I thought, well, things are better now and more advanced, and I've got this big Notion database, so I should put it in Notion. Didn't really work in Notion. It wasn't as easy or convenient as it was in Numbers. And I really didn't need to put it there because I'm the only person that works in the data. And so then I thought, well, I'm making the productivity suite field guide. I should put it in Notes, because Notes has the table feature, but it doesn't do math, and it doesn't have, the different field categories. And it's kind of funny. This year I moved that data like 3 times. And at the end of the year, it's back exactly where it started in Numbers,
Yeah.
But I like it so much, I have a dedicated Stream Deck button with a $sign on it. And if I push that, it just opens that document and it goes straight to it, So I use all of that stuff still. And, they continue to, like I say, make small and incremental, but substantial improvements to the apps throughout the year. And I wish more Apple software was built that way, but shout out to iWork.
That's fantastic. On the top of my notes wish list is make the tables better. Like let them do math, let them do autocomplete. If I'm doing them months of the year, figure out what I'm doing, fill them out.
Sort it.
Yeah. Sorting. Yeah. I think all that's really good. And I suspect, iWork will have a less of a revolution when it comes to Apple Intelligence and Siri and those sorts of things. But I think
you say that, but because it has a dedicated team, I could actually see the iWork team jumping on it faster than anybody else.
What sort? I mean, I know the writing tools are in there, but what other sorts of things like would you envision?
I don't know. I've always thought that it would be good to have built into a presentation software, a presentation critique engine to go through and say, hey, your fonts, you've got too many words on the slides, or, the font size is too small to read in the back of the room. Somebody told me once, your font size should not be smaller than the age of the oldest person in the room, which I think is a great idea. If you got 60-year-olds, you better have a 60-point font.
Yeah.
And But I think AI actually could do it, not build it for me, but just call out areas where it's kind of less than good.
Yeah.
That's an example. Also, I think a lot of people don't understand how to make a spreadsheet, and being able to just tell it, okay, I want a spreadsheet that tracks this, this, and this, and have it auto generate it for me. That would be a nice use. I mean, I'm not saying that I want this to be the big focus of Improved Siri. Actually, I'd like it to be just kind of the all knowing digital assistant we've always talked about. But just given what I've seen of the iWork team, those guys and gals are on it. And I would imagine that if Apple gives them the toy set, they're going to pull it open and do stuff with it.
Well, related to AI stuff, you've got a list in here of what you call donkey work for AI, and you're doing a lot more of this than I am. So where are you with some of these tools at the end of the year? What do you think has improved your workflow?
Yeah, I mean, coming into 2025, I really wasn't sure what to make of AI. Like, I'm not a big fan of having it do the creative work for me. And I think generally, as much as the big frontier models like to brag that it's going to replace all of us, I think that there's still value in human creativity. So I wasn't sure what it was really for. And I feel like this year I'm starting to get my arms around my donkey work AI philosophy, which is, how do I get AI to do donkey work for me? The stuff that I don't want to do. The first obvious example of this is transcription. That was coming along as we started the year, but now there's this plethora of great apps that are showing up using Whisper to do amazing transcription. If you haven't tried it lately, open up the Voice Memos app on your iPhone and just talk to it for a few minutes, and then hit the little quotes that gives you an online transcription right there, done on device, completely private. Even, this is the Apple model, and it's probably the least good of all of them, and it's excellent.
Mhm.
So there's just, transcription has been kind of solved this year with artificial intelligence. So that's one bit of donkey work that helps me. And then I've also really been exploring a lot lately the MCP, Model Context Protocol, primarily through Claude, because they're the ones that came up with it first. So they've got a lot of hooks built already. But the idea is to connect a frontier large language model to a data set and let it do work on it. The example that I would share right now is that I'm using a lot right now is the connection between Claude and OmniFocus.
Okay.
Because my data moved around a lot this year, it went all into reminders, then it went all back to, so things got duplicated, and there was just some problems with my data. So I had Claude first just look through MCP, look at my OmniFocus database. And of course, I'm sacrificing privacy here when I do that, right?
Mhm.
It's a third-party company that can see my tasks. And I said, okay, go through and look for duplicates. And it said, well, do you want identical duplicates or sort of duplicates? Because sometimes the capitalization would change or whatever. I said, no, just sort of duplicates, anything that's about the same. And it found like 100 of them. And then I said, okay, now I want you to delete the duplicates. But if there are tags that are different in the duplicate, or if there are notes that are different, I want you to incorporate all of that into the one that remains. So
Okay.
if I've got one that has tag A and another one has tag B, at the end, there's going to be one that has tag A and tag B. And if there's a note in there, a link or something, that also gets inherited. And it said, sure. And it did that. So in the background, and if you're in the labs, I made a whole video on it. So some people listening have already seen this, but it went and did the whole thing for me. It removed all the duplicates. It combined the tags, all while I was working on other stuff, which is exactly kind of what I want. That's donkey work to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once it finished that, I said, okay, now I want you to go through and convert all of them to title case, all my 1,200 tasks, because when I typed them in a hurry, there's typos and stuff. So it went through, cleared all the typos out, put everything in title case in the tasks. That's kind of cool. Not necessary, but just kind of me having fun with it. then like I've got another project in OmniFocus that is a bunch of content ideas. I'll I was in bed last night and I was thinking about how I put my phone in a drawer at night now. I thought, oh, that would be a good newsletter post to talk
Mhm.
about how I did that and why it's helping. So I just go, OmniFocus, content idea, phone in drawer, And so I had a look at that project and I gave it a list of category tags, like content categories, AI, hardware, software, productivity. I gave it like 10 different categories. And I said, okay, go through that list of 100 ideas and put tags on them for categories. Use your best guess. And it's okay. And then it says, okay, is it okay if I use more than one tag? Like, can something be both productivity and hardware? I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
sure. Do your best. And it went through and did a good job. So now I can look at that big long list and say, okay, now filter it to just show me hardware ideas. I want to write about hardware this week. And all that's happening in the background out of the Claude interface directly into the OmniFocus database. And that's an example of what I would call AI donkey work. It's something that I think makes a lot of sense to me.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a good place for it, right?
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about this over the year, but having it right for me or you, like that's not something we want to do because that's that's how we pay for our shoes. But having having these tools help you sort through data, deal with complex issues, right? Even helping you write code, right? So this year I rethemed 512 pixels. And
Yeah.
like I know I know CSS pretty well, but I know enough JavaScript and like PHP to be dangerous. And those are the technologies that WordPress runs on. And I got pretty deep into the theme and to the structure of 512, and like it's a complicated website because it's 15 years old and like has um or 17 years old, has a bunch of stuff in it. And I used ChatGPT to help me through some of those coding issues, right? And none of them rose to a level where I felt like, okay, I need to hire a developer, which I've done in the past for 512 pixels. And it effectively was like supercharging what I would do with Google and Stack Overflow and other things in the past. And so for me, a use case of this technology this year has been supercharging search, right? I'm looking at these two products build build something for me showing positive and negative reviews of each, right? That sort of stuff where it's taking research that I was already going to do but making it faster and presenting that data in ways that is sometimes novel but can be really useful. It has definitely been a win for me this year. And my use is basically just Chat GPT. I played with Claude on and off, and in 26, I want to give Claude a bigger test because I know they've come a long way. But that sort of work for me, that's been really good, especially with house stuff, right? Just like having moved and like, okay, I'm looking at this or that problem. Like, what have people said? What have people written about this? And it's donkey work, right? Check the sources,
Yeah.
make sure it didn't just get wrong or confused. And that's much better than it was. Hallucinations still happen, but it's much less of a problem, especially I think in the context of using these tools for search. But yeah, that's been huge for me this year and very useful.
Yeah. I am using all three models just because I cover it so much in the labs. I want to kind of be familiar, and they're all good. I mean, Gemini 3 is remarkably good. The new Google. I could see next year being the year that Gemini pulls ahead.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, who knows? But the another example of donkey work for me is Notion, which is what we use for the Mac Power users and the Mac Sparky stuff, has a built-in AI feature if you want, and I pay for that on the Mac Sparky install. And for the longest time, when we set like a labs meetup, it's a global audience, so I'm trying to put time zone in the email, saying, okay, if you're in Germany, it's at this time, and I was always using Elsewin for that app
Yeah.
that calculates them out. But for 2 years now, there's a period of time where the time zones are all shifting everywhere. and Elswin got it wrong for Europe. And that's not good if people are, want to be at the meetup and I give them the wrong time. So I actually put it in Notion because we have a document there that tracks future events. I said, go through and look at all of the times I've listed and check to see if they're accurate. So the workflow I do is I go to Elswin, I block and copy. I put the date and time in Elswin, I block and copy it, put it in Notion. And then that becomes the thing we put into the emails. So I had Notion's AI go through and check every entry, and it found a couple that were wrong. And now I'm thinking, well, I guess in the future I'll just have Notion do that for me.
Mm-hmm.
And again, donkey work. I don't want to figure out the time zone stuff.
Yeah.
But the AI can do that, so let it do it.
Yeah. Well, that's super clever. I've not played with it much in Notion.
Yeah.
But what we're doing on the MPU side is simpler than I think what you're doing at MacSparky. So,
and I don't really want it to like make an outline for me, but to check my time zones, yeah. And I guess the last example I'd give, because it's newsworthy, just this past week, Apple Music connected to ChatGPT, again with a form of MCP where you can connect your Apple Music to ChatGPT. I went ahead and hooked it up and played with it a little bit. It's not great. I mean, you can, as of this recording, it only works on the iPhone. It doesn't work on the Mac. You can make the connection, but the Mac doesn't have the ability to create a playlist in your iTunes music library. And I suspect that's going to probably get fixed with the next software update to the ChatGPT app. But right now on mobile, you can say, give me a list of impressionist music that I can listen to while I'm reading, and it'll put it together and add it to your library.
Yeah.
You can't go in and edit individual playlists. I mean, Apple did not give them a lot of access, but there's some.
Yeah. And there are other apps in there, right? So this came in the context of ChatGPT, OpenAI opening up app integration. So Canva and Figma are in there. Zillow is in there. It's hey, ChatGPT, find a list of houses in this zip code in this price range. All Trails, Instacart, like Spotify. So this will grow, and it is basic right now, right? But in some ways, this is almost the same promise as like the next generation Siri, right? It's like you like pair a big model with my data, my applications, and help me get something done. And we're in the beginning stages of that. I suspect in 2026 that's going to be potentially a really big story across the industry. But it's early days, and I think the Apple Music one, it's basic, and there'll be more at some point, but I think it's going to put the rubber on the road for more people once these tools know about them and their data and their apps.
I'm currently writing a newsletter that's going to come out probably after this show, but not long after. But I'd be curious your thoughts. What is the future? Is it a LLM that apps are built on, like the ChatGPT model, or is an existing operating system that incorporates LLM, like the Apple plus good Siri model? There's two competing platforms right now that.
Yeah. Gosh, I tend to lean towards the second, just because up until now, competing with a platform owner has been extremely difficult, because if you don't own the phone or the operating system, you can only go so far.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But who knows? I mean, I think that's what I think, but I don't know,
Yeah, and the exception to me is if ChatGPT builds a new type of hardware that's so good that people want to use that hardware, then suddenly they've got legs.
Yeah, but then you're competing against the smartphone, which is also difficult. But yeah, I mean, I think it's up for grabs. I think if anything could break the model we've seen of the platform owner wins, it could be something like OpenAI.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I mean, they're competing against Google and Gemini, right? Platform owner with their own tool. Apple's not really in that game yet with Siri. So we're in the early days of that, but I think again another potentially like really big story in the coming year.
And that's why ChatGPT this year gave Johnny Ive a dump truck full of $1 million bills.
That's right. This episode of Mac Power Users is brought to you by DevonThink. DevonThink to Go has been updated to version 4.0 Kepler. It's new and it's awesome. It brings Mac level power to iOS, closing the feature gap. It's named after an astronomer and it has AI integration built throughout the system. You have a built-in chat system called Global Chat Plus. You have per document conversations, and it can remember up to 100 chats. The AI can also summarize documents, extract text from images, generate images, auto tag, and rename files. The AI-based search assistant allows for writing queries in plain English instead of having to learn some complex search syntax. The versioning feature has a ton of great features, including automatically keeping multiple versions of documents as you make changes. While the revision-proof database can do lots of cool stuff, and it's perfect for legal work, regulations, and audit trails. It also has EPUB support, and of course, DevonThink to Go has been updated for iOS 26 and Liquid Glass. All DevonThink Pro and DevonThink Server users get DevonThink to Go for free. All you need to do is keep your license current with updates. And exclusively for Mac Power user listeners, you get 10% off. Go to devontechnologies.com/MPU. The link is in the show notes, devontechnologies.com/MPU. David and I both love and use DevonThink, and I think you will too. Our thanks to DevonThink for the support of the show and all of Relay.
Another thing that I think is working is home automation. And we've mentioned this recently, but I think it's worth calling out that I think we got this year to the it just works threshold of home automation, where if you want to, have somebody walk in a room and the lights come on, that works. And if you want to do basic automation with HomeKit, it just works. And I think it's a bunch of factors why, but I think we did get there.
Yeah, I think we did too. I mean, I've really been on the front lines of this, having moved and like setting this stuff up in a new house, basically from scratch again. And man, it is so much better than I did it. I was in my previous house almost 9 years, and a lot of that stuff, happened over time. But I really haven't run into anything that feels buggy or like it doesn't do what I thought it would do or doesn't do what it says it would do, right? And so I can definitely attest that this is working really well. And there's a bunch of factors there. We are in this time where Matter is becoming more and more important. So Matter is a technology, a protocol that allows devices to work across ecosystem. I mean, back even 5 or 6 years ago, right? You go to Amazon, it's like, this smart plug works with the Amazon Assistant. This one works with the Google Assistant and Apple's, but not Amazon's, right? You had to really be thoughtful and pay attention to, okay, what assistant am I using? What ecosystem am I in? And that limits or changes the devices I can use. And the promise of Matter is to get rid of that. And we are in the early days of this, right? Matter has been, all the home automation stuff is slow to turn over. Like they just recently added cameras to the Matter standard, like 2 weeks ago. I think they're just now rolling out. And so it is a process. But the promise of Matter is that you won't have to think about or even pay attention to what's compatible with what. And it's that's a great future. Like we were talking a second ago about platform owners owning the technology and how it's really hard to beat a platform owner. This is almost antithetical to that argument, that it's no, actually, like, you don't have to pay attention to it at all. And I think that's a good thing. Because like, what if you use an Android phone and then you get an iPhone from work and you decide to move ecosystems? Like, does that mean you have to go replace all your light switches? That's super dumb. And we're not going to live in that world anymore.
Yeah. And that's only because the big guys tried to own it and they failed. I mean, the opening salvo of this was just that, Google, Amazon, Apple all have their own technology, and each one wanted to become the dominant technology. And they eventually realized that they were all stuck in the mud against each other, and it made more sense to collaborate. And it's taken years for Matter to really kind of get dug in, but now Matter now is dominant. If you go on and start shopping for things, most of them are Matter compliant. Most of the hubs are now Matter compliant. And that's why I wanted to add that one to this year, because I feel like this is the year that Matter became a real thing that
Yeah.
it's delivering. And there's several other elements, I think, to why this year is one that I would say that HomeKit matured. The second one, I think, is thread networking. That's been going on for years, but now there's a bunch of vendors making thread networked router systems, which means suddenly you're not flooding your Wi-Fi by putting a couple switches in. And just in general, home networking has improved to such an extent that this stuff, this HomeKit stuff and home automation is a lot more practical.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Thread is its own wireless protocol that is point to point, like it's mesh, which is really great. So you like put the hub in the middle of the house, and then the devices all talk to each other, and it means your range can be really flexible. And yes, it doesn't clog up your Wi-Fi. I mean, 2.4 gigahertz is so flooded with stuff. Like a lot of people run like a separate IoT network, and that eases some of that pain as well. And yeah, again, it's cross-platform. Apple's building Thread radios into basically everything. Amazon has been doing it. Google's been doing it, and it's becoming the sort of de facto networking standard for these things, which is fantastic.
The third point I would say is the HomePod as hub technology. Maybe this one less so because it's not something that arrived this year, but I think a lot of people have a HomePod around the house. And if you're using HomeKit, a lot of people don't even realize they have a home automation hub in their house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you put this in here, and this sent me down a rabbit hole. It's like, okay, I know the Home Hub stuff has like changed over time, and different devices can be the Home Hub. Back in the day, like an iPad could be a Home Hub, and they've gotten rid of that. So how it works now, because I honestly didn't know. Like I didn't even know what my own HomeKit setup was doing. Like I didn't know what the Home Hub was. And so kind of the way it works, if you set up a HomePod Mini or a HomePod, it automatically becomes the Home Hub. If you set up an Apple TV and add it to a room in the Home app, then it can become a Home Hub. And you think, well, Steven, I've got 3 HomePods and Apple TV. I now have 4 devices can be a Home Hub. HomeKit has 2 ways of handling this. The first is that it's automatic, that HomeKit picks and can dynamically pick what device is best suited to be a Home Hub. So think about this. If your kitchen HomePod Mini is your Home Hub and your kid walks by and unplugs it to charge their phone, then HomeKit can see that and pass the Home Hub capability to a different device. Or you can have it manually. You can say, no, my Apple TV is always plugged in. It's plugged in via Ethernet even, and that's what I want to use. Mine was set up automatic. So the HomeKit was doing it, and it picked the Apple TV. I'm just going to leave it. Like I'm just going to let HomeKit manage that. I'm not worried about, one device, being it's always the Home Hub and it always must be. Like honestly, I didn't even know how it was set up, and I've spent basically all fall in HomeKit building things out. So it's all automatic. You don't have to worry about it. But I honestly didn't really know how that was working these days, and so it was fun to go explore that.
And that's kind of the beauty of it. Most people don't realize they've got that running, but their HomeKit stuff just works better,
Yeah.
And then I think the fourth reason, again, this had started the prior year, but now they're way more available and better, is the human presence sensor. Because like every time we do a HomeKit show on Mac Power Users or even Automators in the day, I would always get an email from somebody who says, look, I just want the lights to turn on when I walk in the room and turn off when I leave the room. And I came to realize that's kind of like the threshold issue of automation, right?
Yeah.
The lights turn on when you walk in, they turn off when you leave. And that was actually a tougher problem to solve than you'd think for a long time. But now we have these things called human presence sensors. You put it in a room, it knows when there's a body in there, and then you've got the ability to turn the lights off and on, or any other automation thing you want to do. The presence of a human detection is a gating issue for a lot of automation people want to do. And now you can do it. You can go to Amazon, you can buy the sensor today, it'll be in your mailbox tomorrow, and you've got automation.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I shared this on a More Power Users segment a couple weeks ago, but I'm doing this in my garage where I have an Aqara presence sensor. It's been great. There's lots of other brands, and if there's someone in the garage, it turns the overhead light on in the garage. And just last night I went to a basketball game with a friend of mine. He was going to drive. So he came and picked me up, and I had the garage door up previously, so I just left it up. And he walked into my garage and the light came on. And so I came out and met him, and it was like, what has happened? Like, he's like, it blew his mind. It's like, oh, it's like the sensor, and like it automates turning the light on. And it was just very funny to me, like, because it really blew his mind, but it's so useful. And it doesn't have to be lights turning on, although that I think is the most common thing. But just knowing when somebody's in a space can be really useful. And these things are using millimeter wave and some other technologies. And my garage one doesn't miss. Like, it knows if someone's in there. And it's more robust than a motion sensor, right? I think we talked about Rosemary before, like, motion sensor, if you're sitting at your desk, doesn't really work. So like she had something rigged up to her chair, I think. So this is motion, but presence is just so much better. And the prices come down, and once it's in HomeKit, you can just use it as a trigger for anything you want to do in HomeKit. It's fantastic. I suspect I will have more of these in my future.
Yeah. And they're not cheap. Like the one you recommend, I think, is the one to get.
Yeah.
Because it runs on batteries. And, part of the problem with the early versions of this is they all had a cord coming out of them. You had to have a power source somewhere. And now you can run it on a battery. But that's right now it's $60 to buy one of those. And I think they will get cheaper. And, but that's just, all of this adds up, better Matter, better thread networking, HomePod as hub, human presence sensors. You put all of this together in a blender, and out comes the it just works threshold of home automation. If you've been sitting on your hands on this stuff, this is the year that I think things got good enough that you can probably start buying stuff. I wonder how many times I've said that on this show.
But it's true. I mean, a lot of great stuff happened in 25 in the tech that we care about.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but you put in robot vacuums are a lot smarter. So I'm in the position where I've got a Roomba, and I like my Roomba. It's one that has the tower so it can like suck the trash up and stuff. But iRobot, its owner, Roomba's owner, has filed for bankruptcy, and they're basically being purchased by their manufacturer in China. And it's all very still much like this is like happening as we record. Like, it is very much not completely settled. Roomba has been struggling. Amazon was going to buy them, and government said, no, you can't do that. And that was basically the death sentence for iRobot. They were not going to be able to survive on their own. So a market that they really defined for a long time is now got lots of competitors. And I'm not looking to replace my Roomba because of this, but like, next time I need a robot vacuum, or like, we live in a 2-story house now. Like, if I want one upstairs, I wouldn't go buy a Roomba right now until we know where this dust is going to settle, because these things require software, right? And because there's a cloud service and those sorts of things. That's what I worry about not working. I know some people have concerns about Chinese ownership and those sorts of things. That's a separate complicated issue, but the future's uncertain for Roomba. And in that uncertainty, lots of other companies have come in, and you're using a robot vacuum that's not Roomba. So how's your experience been? And what do you mean by getting smarter? Like, these things started by just like bouncing around your house. And, my Roomba has mapping and has a camera, so it kind of like knows where it is. But where's the Sparks household on this?
So I have a Eufy, because I talked that I have Eufy cameras. Mm-hmm. They sent me a deal a couple years ago, and I bought one of their vacuums, and it has built-in, it's a mop and vacuum, which is great because a lot of my house is hardwood floors, and running that mop on it really helps. But there's also some carpets, and when the thing gets over a carpet, it senses that and stops mopping and starts vacuuming. So in that way, it's smarter. It has a sensor on the front. I don't think it's LiDAR. It's probably just a camera. But like if there's a dog toy on the floor, it goes around it, or a cord. That's on the old days with a Roomba. If it hit a cord, then you were in trouble.
Oh yeah, game over, man. Like your lamp's on the floor and your Roomba's stuck.
Yeah. So this thing is just really smart. It maps the house very well. And so I can say, okay, just clean the studio. And it does that. All of this stuff. I think Roomba has a lot of these features too. iRobot does that too. I haven't used an iRobot in years. And I suspect they were getting there as well. But just in general, kind of the software stack, partly AI, partly just making better software. On all of these things, they've got a lot smarter. But the thing I like most about mine is the combination of a mop and vacuum. And I run it multiple times a week. I run it when I leave the house, and my wife comes home to a clean house, and she's got a hard job. I don't want her to have to deal with the floors, and it's kind of taken care of. I still have to do some manual stuff occasionally. There's certain spots of the house it doesn't do that well.
Yeah.
But it does the kitchen too, because it's a mop, and if you just run it frequently, it's fine and largely a solved problem. And that's really not the focus. I think this is probably true before 2025. But again, if you haven't looked into this stuff lately, they are a lot smarter, and there's a lot of competition out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just looking at the Eufy website, they've got a lot of options here with different features and price points and those sorts of things. That's something that I would do too when it's time to replace this. Maybe what I do is the Roomba comes upstairs. Upstairs is all carpet, but downstairs is all hard floor except where we have rugs. And so having something that could mop and vacuum downstairs and just vacuum upstairs maybe my long-term solution here. Because I was aware of like the mop vacuum combos. What I had not paid attention to is how many options there are and how these things are expensive, but they're cheaper than they were. Like the first combo machines were really pricey, and that's come down over time. And so I think when it's time for us to either expand our fleet or replace the Roomba, I'm going to look at something like this that is a combo machine. Now with the Eufy, is that tied into HomeKit at all?
No.
Like iRobot, there's a Homebridge plugin that I've tried, but it was pretty limited, so I just used the iRobot app for the Roomba. How's the Eufy on the software side?
It is not HomeKit friendly.
Okay.
It doesn't see it. I use the Eufy app I use for my outdoor cameras and for my vacuum. It's all in one app, so it's kind of convenient that way. To be honest, I barely use the app, though. My main kind of protocol is as I'm walking out the door, I tap the button on top of the Eufy vacuum and off it goes.
Yeah.
And I clean the water, once a week. So it's got a clean and a dirty water vessel.
Okay.
And it is shocking to me how dirty the water is when I clean it out. I'm like, I thought my house was clean. What's happening here? And and then it's got some filters and things in the device that you have to clean about once a month. And again, they get shockingly dirty. But that's kind of the point. So I've got the app and I can have it do things. But honestly, what I really do is like, if I'm going out to run errands or something, I just tap the button on top of it and it happens while I'm gone.
Yeah.
And I don't even like clean up the house for the vacuum, like in the old days with a robot vacuum, you had to like be really careful about what's out. I don't do any of that stuff. If it misses something because it's there, it'll go around it. Next time it'll get that spot. So
yeah.
I just don't think about it much. But yeah, if you want something that's HomeKit friendly, don't get the Eufy. There are brands that are embracing HomeKit more than that.
Yeah, for me, the HomeKit thing is not a big deal. In the iRobot app, you can set jobs. So it's like, just go to the kitchen and the living room, right? You tap that in the app. But yeah, most of the time, if I'm just going to let it bounce around all day, like I just hit the button on the thing as I walk by it, and it just goes off and lives its life. So
interestingly, I do have the vacuum on my widget screen on my Mac.
Okay.
And I think this is a shared widget from the iPhone. I'm not sure that it's a native widget on the Mac. I'd have to dig into it. I'm not going to stop and do it right now, but I can trigger it from my widget screen. That's kind of funny. But again, I don't really do that. I just hit the button as I'm walking out the door. So I don't really need those features as much as some people may. Like if you're at a job and you want it to trigger while you're at work, you need a reliable way to do that. But honestly, the Eufy app would do that too. But if we're talking about HomeKit, I'm kind of off the reservation a bit.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, for a product like a smart vacuum, it's got a lot of features, right? HomeKit may not even be the best place for it to live, honestly.
Yeah, this stuff is great. Before we move on to the next happy story, I think we do have to put a couple asterisks on HomeKit.
Okay.
Number one is, it's reliant on Siri, which at this point in history isn't great. Yeah. I think, a better LLM version of Siri could make HomeKit way better in terms of being responsive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think so too. Even, with simple names of HomeKit controls and scenes, sometimes it just misunderstands or doesn't do the right thing.
Yeah, because I have learned exactly what to say to Siri.
Yeah.
To get it to turn on the lights in a specific room.
Yeah.
You have to really understand, well, what does HomeKit think this room is called, and what are the lights in this room? So I can sit on the couch and make lights turn on at will. Mm-hmm. And then my wife and family see that and they're like, oh, that's cool. I want to do that too. And they get the room name slightly wrong or something.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't work for them. And then they look at me and just okay, Mr. Sparky.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that looks the worst. It's the worst feeling.
Yeah. And a better Siri would be able to parse that and make it work better.
Yeah.
And honestly, we heard rumors this year that Apple's thinking about getting into the home automation hardware game. And I would love that because, one of the things I worry about, even with the Eufy cameras, I don't really know that company. And, one of the reasons I bought their cameras is because it's local storage. It doesn't go to a cloud, but, they're on a network that's connected to the internet. I don't know what's really going on. And I would really like Apple to get into the home automation racket. Even if they charge a little more, you'd know that you were secure and the stuff just worked. Kind of like the old days, with the airport where you paid a little extra, but it worked better.
Mm-hmm.
If they were willing to go and do that, I would love to see that happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating to think about because they're not really in the consumer device market in this way. I'd love for Airport to come back, but what would it look like for them to do other things? And it would obviously be private and local, right? Those cameras, door sensors, all those sorts of things. Because really, I want, one reason I use Unify cameras, I want as much of this stuff to be local, not only for privacy and security, but also what happens if the cloud service is down and I can't turn on my light, right? So they're all gone now, but I had way back in the day these iHome HomeKit smart switches, and they relied on a cloud service, and then they just turned it off. They sent an email and said, hey, at the end of the year, these switches basically aren't going to work anymore. And that was the early days of HomeKit, right? Way different than it is now. But that was really frustrating because I had 5 or 6 of them that I bought around the house. I was well, what am I going to do? And so having things be local, be private, be not cloud dependent, those things are all really important, I think, to a lot of people when it comes to the smart home, and Apple could play into that. And just look how good the camera is in the iPhone. Make a smart camera I can plug in and, put it in a weatherproof housing. I can stick it on the side of my house and it would look way better than almost anything else on the market. And, I don't know if they want to go down that road, but I think it would be really interesting. Even if those individual products weren't for me, it would spur competition and it would show consumers and other companies what's possible in HomeKit. And I think that would be good for the ecosystem at large.
Yeah. And obviously cameras are the low hanging fruit here.
Oh yeah.
Because that's the thing we want privacy on the most.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have cameras inside my house. For a while I was running them, and then I would run them through Apple's, Apple has the HomeKit secure
Mm-hmm.
video, but then that, reduces the camera to 1K. And I just felt like, look, if you're going to come in my house, I'm going to have video of you before you get in my house. So it's
Yeah,
fine.
same.
But but if Apple made them on the interior of the house, making one that I could turn on when nobody's home, that would be okay. I think I would trust that more.
Yeah. I don't have any cameras inside. I've got a couple outside. I do. So a little project for me. It's not really a HomeKit. It's a camera project. So we have a chicken coop, and we're going to get chickens in the spring.
Okay.
I don't
Oh,
really
I can
remember.
see some AI art with you as a farmer right now.
Yeah. I don't really know how I agreed to this, but it happened.
Yeah.
And my wife and I were talking, and she was like, would it be, we were talking about like when they're little, right? They'll live in the garage or the workshop. But when they get a little bit bigger, they go outside. She's like, it would be cool to like have a camera out there because it's way in the back corner of the yard. And I was thinking about it. And I was like, there's not power out there, but I could run PoE cameras. Like I could bury some Ethernet. There's nothing I love apparently more than putting networking in the ground.
Yeah.
And
the chicken cable.
Yeah, chicken cable. So two direct burial. I don't have to do conduit or anything. Ethernet. It's not fiber. And I'm gonna put a couple cameras out there, right? And so that'll be a springtime project for me.
Yeah, we I guess I misspoke because we do have one camera pointed at the dog crate. Hopefully, Apple does that stuff. So, with a little asterisk, I say 2025 was a good year for HomeKit in general and home automation. This episode of the Mac Power Users is brought to you by Ecamm, powerful live streaming for your Mac. Go to ecamm.com/MacPowerUsers and get 15% off with code MPU15. If you're a Mac user who creates video or podcasts, you need Ecamm. Ecamm Live is the all-in-one studio built exclusively for the Mac, so it looks, feels, and performs like a native pro app should. Whether you're live streaming, recording a podcast, or producing training videos, Ecamm gives you broadcast-level control with drag-and-drop simplicity. Switch cameras, share your screen, cue overlays, and control audio, all without ever leaving your Mac. I think what I love most about Ecamm is the soup-to-nuts mentality of the application. From streaming to presenting to recording, lower thirds, they've got everything you need right there to make a professional-looking production. You don't have to be a video professional to get professional results with Ecamm. You can brand your show with titles, graphics, and lower thirds. You can also pull in guests via interview mode and record multi-track audio for perfect post-production. And if you're into automation, Ecamm works beautifully with tools and apps like Stream Deck and Loop Deck, as well as many Mac tools you already know and love. You can upgrade to Pro and unlock Ecamm for Zoom, letting you feed your polished setup straight into Zoom meetings or webinars, share Zoom comments on screen, and even capture each participant's audio and video separately for easy post-production work. Ecamm really has it all. It will make you look great. To get 15% off, go to ecamm.com/MacPowerUsers and use code MPU15. That's 15% off at ecamm.com/MacPowerUsers with the code MPU15. And our thanks to Ecamm for their support of the Mac Power Users and Olive Relay.
So I did just a second ago mention Unify, and they are on my list for things that worked well for me in 2025 as well. We did episode 82 was all about the Ubiquiti universe. That was over the summer in June, I believe. And, I've got, again, having moved, spending a lot of time on my smart home stuff, it was really easy to take down my old network, bring it to the new house, and set it back up. I mean, obviously I had to run cable and stuff, and there's still more of that to do. But I was just very pleased with how simple that was. And, well, I'm in the house now. I don't have two buildings. I don't have fiber linking them. There are, one thing in particular is, that's more complicated now is I don't have fiber. So I've got Comcast, which pains me. But if the internet went down at the old house, I would just tether, right? And I could tether while recording if I needed to. I cannot do that at my new house. Basically, no cell service here. And so, in looking at that, I was like, well, what do I do? Not if Comcast goes down, but when Comcast goes down. And I've seen the distribution like box where my cable comes from. It's in my neighbor's yard. I'm shocked my internet works at all, man. That thing is so sketchy.
Yeah.
And so what I ended up doing, the only other internet provider option for me was AT&T DSL. Like, it's so slow, but it's super cheap. And actually, I was like still under contract under my fiber, and so it helped mitigate some of those fees I would have had to pay. And so I have Comcast and I have AT&T DSL. And you think, well, what do you do for like failover and stuff? My gateway, so like the UniFi router, just handles it. Comcast and AT&T come into that box, and you tell it the priority. So the Comcast is the priority. And I did it when I set it up. And if Comcast goes down, I could unplug the Comcast, and instantly my gateway switches over to AT&T. Like, if you're streaming something, you don't notice it buffer. Like, it is instant. And then Comcast comes back up. The gateway sees that and brings me back over to Comcast. And I have it set up to send me push notifications when that happens, when the failover happens. And it was just, I never used that before. I didn't need it previously. The fiber was rock solid at the old house. But having that in your home, like, if I don't have the internet, like, I can't work. Like, everything I do in my career is remote and online. And it was so easy to set up. And it was just like, man, like I knew the gateway that I bought had that capability. That's not why I bought it, but it was a bonus, once I was out here. So just a big win for me there, and getting my network stood up, getting it stood up really quickly, using their tools like Wi-Fi Man, which is an iPhone application that you walk around once you have some access points set up, and it shows you your signal, exactly where you are and when you're going to roam to the next access point. And, I hung 3 access points up where, just like my history with networking, like, told me where I needed them to be. And turns out I needed a 4th, and it was Wi-Fi Man. It was walking around, and the iOS itself didn't really, the little Wi-Fi bars didn't drop, but Wi-Fi Man showed me like, oh, actually your connection downstairs in this end of the house is actually pretty poor. And so I added a 4th one, and adding an AP is really simple. And it even does this thing now. A newer feature that I have on my network is it will analyze the channels your access points are on, look at interference from your neighbors or other things, and it will adjust those radios automatically to what channel they're on. That was previously, it could do it automatically, but you had to tell it, go do it, or you could do it manually, which is like over my head, something I don't want to spend my time on. And so just the ease of use and the capability of UniFi continues to improve. And I was thrilled that I already had it set up, and bringing it over here and getting it set back up was not difficult.
Yeah. It's a good year for UniFi for the Mac Power users.
Oh, okay. You want to tell the class what you did?
Yeah, I did it too. I'm now on UniFi.
Yes.
If you go back to the episode, I don't know if I want to listen to the episode, because at the end I'm like, well, I'm happy with, my Eros and blah, blah, blah. And I had an Eero go out on me. That was a key Eero, so I was going to have to buy another one. And I got thinking, okay, at what point do I stop spending money on Eero and switch over to UniFi? And then I made the mistake of talking to Steven, and I advanced my upgrade. So rather than spending $200 on Eero, I spent $1,000 on UniFi. but I really like it, and everything Steven said in that show is true. It is kind of an Apple experience, though. The way the hardware is packaged, and when you get it, it's not Apple in the sense that setting it up, you really kind of need to know somebody to decide what you need. Like, I had an extended call with Steven, and we went through the website, and if I hadn't done that, I would have been a little lost as I made those purchases, because obviously they make stuff for stadiums, and my house is not a stadium. So,
I was joking with a friend of mine. He just moved and is going to do his network again. And we were talking. He's a UniFi user, and I sent him a link to one of like the stadium access points. And I was like, "Go in your attic and mount this at the highest point, and it'll do your whole house." Of course, the access point's like thousands of dollars. Yeah, I was like, "This is not an actual idea to do. It's not something you should do." And I think we said that on that episode. Part of my critique of the UniFi system is that it is not very obvious what you should do to start. And I think that they have a designer, right? You can like build a floor plan and like figure out where your APs will go and that sort of thing. But I think the on-ramp to it should be easier. And that's a side effect of it was a professional line of stuff and they kind of became prosumer. And they haven't really caught up with that sort of user yet. I think it's some of the way they talk about their products and the way they distinguish them on their website. But if you really if you've got a buddy who can walk you through it, like I did, it's great, and I've been very happy with it. I'm going to run the Ethernet to the chicken coop. I'm going to mount a couple of PoE cameras out there, and it's very extendable. You can start small and add on, right? So another project of mine is we don't have cell service at the house, and I have very poor Wi-Fi, like in the backyard, like in the porch, and like where we would grill and that sort of thing. And so I'm going to add an outdoor access point. And they make, you go on the website, they make, weatherproof ones. And I'm going to, got to run Ethernet to it. That's the trade-off. Just about everything is PoE. But I can just add it and adopt it. And my network knows about it. And it like configures the radios for me. And it's very easy to adapt and grow over time. And even as their product line changes, right? Like I think on that episode we spoke about that I have their NAS, the UNAS Pro, and in the months since they've released both bigger NASs and smaller like desktop NASs to take on something like Synology, and all that stuff just works together in a very Apple-like way. And I continue to be a fan and continue to evangelize their tech products, because I think they're really great. And not everybody needs them, but if you're a small business or you work from home or you run a stadium, like they've got something for you, and it's all been really solid.
Yeah. So what I did was I kind of went in on the low end. I got kind of the lowest end cloud gateway, but it's way more than I need. And it's so efficient. And I'll get to the software in a minute. But then on that, I needed one switch, and then I needed some of their Wi-Fi. What they call? I think they call it a cloud gateway. Is that right? No, that's not it. Cloud gateway is the thing that plugs into the internet.
It's like the router,
the access points. And I went ahead and got the long range access points because I just I wanted everything to work. And got a couple of those throughout the house. I added one to the garage, which required me to run cable to the garage, which was a whole nother story I don't want to get into today, but it's done. And like my Eufy cameras now have better internet access than they've ever had. Mm-hmm. Our house is dripping in Wi-Fi at this point. And I also really, really like the software to control it and the interface. Like you get so much details. If you want to know, like, how many devices are on this access point and how well are they doing? Eero had that to an extent, but not nearly to the extent that the UniFi stuff does. And so that's where, like when Stephen was saying prosumer, I think that's the right word, because if you want to get your hands into the network and really understand what's going on, this stuff is a great solution. If you just want to plug something in and have the internet in your house, I'd say stick with Eero. And or something like Eero, a mesh network of some sort. But I really like this. And what I like about it is now I will never have to do a full upgrade again. I'll just update individual components as needed. I worry a little bit that I am not the primary customer of UniFi. Like if somebody, they get a new CEO who says, oh, we don't need to do this prosumer stuff anymore. Let's just focus on stadiums. Then I'm going to feel dumb.
Yeah. I don't know if that would if that would take place. I mean, I obviously don't know their financials, right? But I would imagine their prosumer user base is pretty big at this point.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I think I mentioned it. Their CEO, their owner, owns the Memphis Grizzlies, our NBA team. And so you walk around our stadium, like I was there last night for a college basketball game, and there's Unify cameras everywhere. You see access points, right? Like they have a video on their YouTube channel somewhere of like all their network racks of all the stuff. It's very funny. But yeah, I mean, I would hope that wouldn't be an issue. But
and even then, that I said I'm just going to get the basics. I am already looking like, oh, maybe I should put a backyard access point in. Now that I've wired it up, I could do that very easily.
Mhm.
And you mentioned the kind of the consumer grade NAS. They've got one called the UNAS 4 that's got 4 drives in it. It looks like one of those old Western Digital big drives you'd stick on your desk. And now that I've got everything unified, I could just plug that in. I don't know how much they cost. They're not for sale yet. They're just on the website.
Yeah, it looks like the box is $379, and you bring your own drives, or you can buy drives from them. But
see, that's affordable to put a NAS in for me. And since I'm already wired into it, see, it's like I can see how I will add to this.
Yeah.
I don't see myself going the full camera route the way you did, although that's appealing, right? Because it's power over internet. It's something you control. It's on your network only. If like Eufy really made me mad, I could see myself doing that as well. But this is a thing that once you get into, I can see how you go down the path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I was not looking for an NAS, but then I just my hand was forced with the amount of data that I have, and I've got they're sort of their original NAS. The new ones all have like NVMe SSD slots to speed up access and that sort of thing. There's always, just like Apple, right? There's always going to be a better product, right? You buy a doorbell, a new doorbell is going to come out later that year. That's just how it works with Ubiquiti, just like Apple, just like Samsung, just like everybody. That really wasn't true with Eero. Eero would basically update when there was a new Wi-Fi standard, so like Wi-Fi 6 and then 6E and then 7. But Eero just does access points. They don't have those other things. But yeah, the level of control, the level of specificity, like I have my TV is wired to Ethernet. I have a switch in my TV stand for game consoles and the Apple TV, and my bridges are there for Lutron and for Aqara. And I could have hooked the TV to Wi-Fi. I was like, I got Ethernet, it's right there. I just plugged it in. But I have a rule on my network: the TV does not have internet access. Yeah. And every once in a while, I will allow it internet access to see if there's an update to the TV that I want to run. Usually there's not. And I don't allow it internet access, right? Like I want the capability to have it, but I don't want it all the time. A very simple rule to write in the dashboard, and I can just go in there and disable it when I want to, and it's instant and it has access, so then I turn it back off. And it's a silly thing, but doing that in other systems is not easy. Like I would probably resort to just like plugging the cable in when I wanted to use it. And now I can just do it with the tap of a button.
The amount of control you get with a Ubiquiti system is shocking, and it's not that hard once you get into the control panel. They make it pretty easy to see.
Yeah. So
I went down the rabbit hole. I followed you, Stephen.
I'm glad you did it, and I'm glad it's in the open now, because this was a while ago. I got like a couple months ago, maybe.
Yeah. I still have. Okay, here's a weird thing. Let me share this with the audience. Maybe somebody can help me solve it. There is still an Eero device somewhere in my house, and I can't find it. So, usually when you change networks, you keep the same name and password, so everything just works. When I dismantled Eero, there's still something in my house broadcasting my internet name, and I don't know what it is. And I've been using Eeros for so long, I suspect that it's in probably one of my kids' rooms. Like one of them thought they'd be clever and plug it into the closet or something. But I've asked them, and they say they don't know what I'm talking about. But I've still got something in my house broadcasting my old network ID. So I had to set up the new Ubiquiti system with a new network ID, because I couldn't, you can't have two things broadcasting the same name. But for the life of me, I can't. I've walked around with sniffing apps. I can't find it. I feel like maybe after I'm dead, they'll be cleaning some part of the house and say, "What is this thing plugged into the wall?" I don't know what I'm going to do. But
I remember because I think you called me. You were like, "I'm having like connection issues," and then it was clear that something is spewing out your old SSID, your old network name.
Yeah.
There's no telling. I because I'm lazy and did not want to reconnect everything, I used the same SSID when I moved, but I didn't run into that problem where like there was a ghost network. I mean, effectively is what it is, right? And you were having devices like not connect to the internet, although they were connected to the network, but then they weren't showing in the unified dashboard. It's like, and then we sort of had the realization like, oh, there's something else broadcasting this still. So if you ever find it, please tell us, because I have been dying to know what it is.
Because I have a small house. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's so funny.
Am I going to find something in the attic? I mean, I honestly, or like, is there some piece of hardware in my house that has adopted and rebroadcast the network ID that's not an Eero hardware? I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. It could also be an old Apple Airport, because I've been using the same network name forever.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what it could possibly be.
There's no
I feel kind of stupid admitting it, to be honest. It's like, what is in my house that is broadcasting my SSID that I'm not aware of? Anyway.
Yeah, it's a true mystery, but I'm glad you made the jump.
Yeah. So with the new SSID, everything's working good. My network has never been better, and my internet has never been stronger. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah. And you're equipped now for, faster connection or additional capability down the road, like we talked about.
Yeah. And I when you mentioned that you lost fiber, the thing that I get to brag about hopefully next year at this time is I got an email from the local fiber company saying, "Hey, we're going to be in your neighborhood and excuse our dust," kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "You can make all the dust you want, but you need to call me the moment it's available."
Yeah.
So I expect in the next year I'll have fiber, which will be a huge benefit for us.
It'd be sweet.
All right. We are the Mac Power Users. You can find us at relay.fm/MPU. You can also go to the forum at talk.macpowerusers.com. What tech worked for you in 2025 and what's your success story? We'd love to hear it. We're going to be doing a feedback episode sooner or later, and we'll be checking that out. If you want to sign up for membership for more power users, this is the last week to get that good deal. Go over to relay.fm/MPU and sign up now. We've heard from a bunch of you that have taken advantage of it, and we appreciate that very much. Today on More Power Users, we're going to be talking about tech we hope works in 2026. So that's going to be a fun discussion. Thank you to our sponsors, 1Password, Devon Technologies, and Ecamm, and we'll see you next time.